Hey everyone, it's Hazel West. I'm here with my, what is this one? The September reading wrap up. Um, Hopefully getting this up a little earlier than the last one. But, so in September, I actually ended up reading, 7 books, which was more than I expected to after the first couple, which took me like pretty much half the month. But I gained some ground at the end of the month. I read books that I really, really liked between all of them, so I was pretty happy with what I read. The first book I read was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is one that my friend Mara has been telling me about since she read it, and I finally decided to pick it up because I really needed just like kind of a really like kind of magic-y book, and that's what this is. It's a magic realism set in the Victorian era, based around this circus, and this was such a beautiful book. Like, I will say this, there is, as far as like the plot goes, it's really not that special. In fact, there's not much in the way of plot at all, necessarily, but what it definitely makes up for it in the atmosphere. I really, really just loved the world building in this. The circus was just so beautiful, and it's like really, really hard to describe. But if you love magic realism, this is definitely a book I would suggest to pick up, just because it's just so, so gorgeous. Like, the characters and stuff, I did enjoy them, but it's not, I don't know. To me, this isn't a book that you read necessarily for the characters or the story. I don't usually like books like that, but in certain aspects, I can deal with that. And this was one that I can deal with that and still give it 5 out of 5 stars, because it was just so, so well written. Like, it's just such a visionary book. I don't know. It's very hard to describe. But, if you really like that kind of stuff, I would definitely suggest picking this up. It's kind of funny because it's supposed to be an adult novel, but it reads very much like young adult novels. It has like a lot of the stuff that adult fantasy doesn't usually give you. I think it's just very whimsical and kind of different in a way that normal adult fantasies, especially like non-genre fantasies, are. So I don't know. Either way, I really, really liked it, and I'm so happy I picked it up. After that, I finally picked up Nevermore by Rob Thurman. This is the 10th book in the Cal and Nico Leandros series. This one probably is my least favorite in the series so far. Not to say that it was necessarily bad, it was just really, really slow-paced. And it, like, the things that I have a problem with Rob Thurman was, like, that was all in this book. And that's kind of, she has, I mean, I love her characters internalizing, I do. That's one of the reasons I love her books, but sometimes it can just get so, like, pages and pages of internalizing, and that's what this one was like. Because usually it's like, okay, you get a couple pages of that, and then back to the action, but this one was, like, so slow. I mean, this is definitely, like, you have to be a fan to get through this book. That being said, I think the next one, which, this is a cliffhanger, so the next one is going to be really action-packed and get kind of back into it. But as far as this goes, it's definitely, like, one you have to be a fan for. The concept, though, I will say, I really, really usually hate time travel books, especially, I mean, I don't hate all time travel books, but when it's, like, the character time traveling, like, back in time, like, back to the future style, those can be so, so annoying. This one, she actually did it pretty well. I do appreciate that she was able to do it, and it wasn't, like, super confusing. Plus, like, with the characters and their snarkiness, it's kind of, like, it's kind of funny anyway to them, anyway. But, I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. In reality, if I wasn't like such a huge fan of the series, probably 2. But I don't know. I think it's gonna really depend on like what the next one is like. But apart from that, yeah. Now, my favorite part of this book was her descriptions of Thor and Loki, though. I will never, ever, ever forget that. Like, that is the most amazing thing. I was just rolling. It was my favorite part. So yeah. And her books always make me laugh, so. After that, I picked up My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. I bought this one a couple months back, and I really have been waiting to read this, like, since it came out, essentially. But I finally got to pick it up this, in September, and I was so, so happy about this book. This is definitely one of my, favorite reads of 2016, favorite 2016 books, because it came out this year, too. But yeah, I was not disappointed at all with this. It was just so good. I loved Jane as a character, and the 3 of them, actually, like Jane, Edward, and Gifford, or G. Just the whole concept of this book was so funny, because it has such great homages to the history and the historical fact, but yet it's so obvious that the authors are just discarding it. And I just love it. Like, I love the concept of taking a historical story and writing it so blatantly, historically inaccurate that no one can really get angry about it. Like, I love that. I would not used to have loved that, but I do now, because I'm not such a fuddy-duddy as I was back in high school. But, I mean, this book is genuinely hilarious. Like, it has such a lovely, subtle sense of humor that I appreciate. Plus the fact that it is very, like, it's very reminiscent in part of The Princess Bride, and there's a lot of references. Plus there's, like, a Tangled reference, and that instantly, I have to love this book because of that, because Tangled is one of my favorite, modern Disney movies. You can't not like a Tangled reference. But it was so, so good, and I recommend this one so highly. Like, whether you're a historical fiction fan, or if you just really want something, fun and kind of royal-like to read, like, it may seem like a really thick book, but I actually got through this, I think, in, like, maybe 3 days. It did not take me long. It's a very quick read, even though it looks daunting, and I think that's another charm of it. So, obviously, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved it. After that, I picked up The Scourge by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This one I actually had totally forgot. She wrote, and I just happened to see it when I was at Barnes & Noble one day, so I picked it up, and I, like, read it, like, not long after that. It just sounded really, really good, and I really wanted one of her books. But anyway, so this one was really interesting. It's a standalone of hers, so you don't have to wait for, like, the cliffhangers and the trilogies and whatever, which I appreciate. But this one I really, really liked. It's based around kind of political intrigue, and you have a really good heroine and her friend, whose names I cannot remember at the moment. But anyway, I really liked the heroine. She was great. She was very strong, as is typical of Jennifer Nielsen's female characters, but yet she was never, like, overbearing. Like, she did what she had to do, and without care of what anyone thought. But that's because she had to do it, because that's just the way she is. Because it was the right thing to do. So, the Scourge, essentially, is a disease. Or so everyone thinks. And the Scourge victims are sent to this, like, kind of, essentially, like, work colony. So, that's like an island off of the mainland. Of course, things get complicated, and she's very much trying to figure out. I mean, she's kind of like, well, this isn't necessarily fair. So she's trying to figure out like how to get back home essentially, and to help other people, and figure out if there is actually corruption in the local government and all that. So it's a really, really interesting story. Like, I kind of, for the most part, I guessed, like, what the twist was pretty early on. But there's still a lot of really cool stuff, plot-wise, that I wasn't expecting, and I really, really liked this book. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I've not disliked a Jennifer A. Nielsen book, so she's always one of my favorite authors, and I was really happy I found that one to pick up.